Hi everyone, welcome to Aberrant Behavior. I'm your host, Christabel. In this episode, we're going to switch things up a little bit. We're going to do our first question and answer episode, or questions and answers episode, because I got more than one question and yeah, okay. So I asked people on my Instagram to ask me questions and I will attempt to answer them. I don't have answers to things I don't know and haven't had a lived experience with. So this is going to come from that perspective. Always, anything I ever say is going to come from the perspective of knowledge gained over my years of life and my lived experiences. So let's go. The first question is, have you experienced racism in an interview hiring process in healthcare? I can't say that I have, or at least I wasn't aware of it. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that I'm a travel nurse. So a lot of my interviews are virtual. And usually it's phone interviews. And oftentimes I don't even get a traditional interview. I have a profile put together by the agency that represents me, and that profile is submitted to a potential employer. And based on that profile, I get offered a job or not. So that's how it works as a travel nurse. Of course, now when I start the job, there is always scrutiny, as there should be. And I've always gotten a job. I've never been fired. So I don't know how people's racist attitudes or thoughts have impacted the opportunities I may have not gotten. But I can't say that I have experienced it overtly. Now, if we were talking about racist attitudes and systemic racism in healthcare, I have a whole lot to talk about when it comes to that, but that wasn't the question. Okay, second question is, what do you think? How do you feel about aging? I love this question because, frankly, I don't think about aging much. I'm turning 35 this October, so I think of it from the perspective of, oh my gosh, I'm turning 35. I don't even know how that happened, because I feel like just yesterday I was in my 20s. I was 24, and I'm very, very childlike in my approach towards life, and I love that about me. I don't take myself too seriously. I wear what I like. I dress how I like. I wear mostly pink. And someone may say, oh my gosh, that is not a 35-year-old thing to do. Oh, well, sue me. So yeah, no, I don't really think of aging. I think a lot of one of the biggest reasons why is I grew up in a country where we just weren't focused on things like that. Survival is the main focus of many people from African countries or who live in Africa. So certainly that's how I grew up. So like the preoccupation more developed nations have with aging and weight and all of that, I just don't have that embedded in my psyche as someone who grew up here. So the way I think of aging, every so often I'll think about, like, do I want kids? If I want kids, maybe I should think about having kids sooner than later because, I'm about to turn 35. I think of aging that way. When it comes to like physical appearance, I don't look, well, obviously I look different than I did 10 years ago, but I don't see it. My face is, my face is still my face, and I don't, struggle with like wrinkles, or I don't even know, I don't know if I should even call that a struggle, but things that would traditionally, I guess, bother people about aging, I just don't experience. Like they say, black don't crack, and that's how I feel about that. So I don't have any particular feelings about aging. It just is what it is. If I'm aging, I'm alive, and that's how I feel about it. The next question is, how should a white ally respond to Black people that are denying Black Lives Matter and systemic oppression exists for Black people? So far, I have stayed back because I am uncertain. This is a good question. I do think that the most obvious answer to me is there are more people to criticize than Black people. So if I were you, I would focus on other people who are not Black to criticize. Most foremost amongst those would be yourself, potentially, if examining your own racial biases, your own ways, assuming that you're white, ways you benefit from white supremacy, and I think I'll just leave Black people alone. Blackness is not a monolith, and it's a vast array of people that make up Black people. But I don't think that a white person should be focusing their energy on criticizing Black people at all. So that's how I feel about that. Why are you so awesome? Honestly, this question made me smile so hard because I do now think that I am awesome. I haven't always thought that. It has been a really, really long process of getting to a place where I can, confidently and without shame say, I do think I'm awesome. I am flawed. We all are, but I have a good heart. I love deeply. I love expansively. I have a code of ethics that guides the way I move through life, a personal code of ethics that guides the way I move through life. And, chief amongst those is do no harm. And I work really, really hard to ensure that I am not intentionally or unintentionally harming people. And I'm really proud of myself for the work that I have done to get to this place. So thank you so much. Why am I awesome? A lot of therapy, a lot of, just realization that life is meant to be lived, and I want to do my very best at living it. Next question. Let's see. It's a few questions from the same person. The first one is how to overcome religious guilt after coming out of a religion and realizing you're a lesbian. Ooh, this is a rough one. This is a tough one because it has been a journey for me. I was raised by a mother who is a strict Jehovah's Witness. I was raised in a very strict Jehovah's Witness household. I was baptized at 13, and I remained a Jehovah's Witness for till I was 28. So that was 15 years of what would be considered voluntarily being a part of the organization. And when I left, it was a gradual process. I left initially from a mental perspective. I was beginning to explore my queerness. So a lot of the teachings were no longer resonating as far as, homosexuality being an abominable cancer that I had to uproot in myself. So I began to explore my queerness before 28. I would say maybe 26. So that's how it started. And I was very fortunate to realize early on the need for therapy. I started therapy before I came out. And I didn't come out for probably a year after I had started therapy. It was a lot of leaning on my therapist. It was a lot of just anytime I would feel anxiety about what I was doing, I could always hold off because I knew I had a therapy session in a few days that next week, whatever. So in those first few months of therapy, I didn't miss a session. I'm a really good student, so I took to therapy very well. I applied myself, if you will. And so that was the biggest reason why I could, work my way towards coming out eventually. The guilt, on the other hand, stuck around. So I came out maybe a year after I had started therapy. So not only did I have this religious background, I'm also African, and Africans are stereotypically incredibly homophobic. And so my family was not exempt. But the thing about me is, even when I'm crying in my therapist's office, about my family not accepting me, I have this survival mechanism where I would never show that weakness to my family. So I'll go to therapy and I'll cry about it. And then to my mom, I'll be like, what you gonna do? Like, I was very in her face about it. And I realize now that it's just a defense mechanism. I came out with a bang, like, to her. And when she tried to mock me about, oh, how do you have sex with girls? Why are you choosing this abominable thing? I would, react back with, well, since you asked, this is how sex goes. This is exactly what I do. Do you want pictures? Do you want videos? So I was very reactionary, but it was definitely a protective mechanism that I had developed over the years of just showing a really tough exterior. And so basically I said to her, you don't have to disown me. I will disown you if you don't accept me. But so I did that. That's how I kind of came out to her. But the guilt did not leave me for a really, really long time. I went from, okay, maybe this is not God. This is not what God wanted of me, but this is what I am. I am a sinner. And if that means not inheriting everlasting life, then so be it. We all have our sins. So for a little bit after I came out, that would be the discussion I would have with other Christians. I would say, yeah, this just happens to be my sin. You have your sin and I have my sin. Don't judge my sin. So obviously in that language, I was still very much feeling a lot of guilt about being a lesbian. And over time, with therapy and consistency and just time really, really is remarkable. Time and effort yields results. It's gradual. It's in gradual increments, but it happens. And at least that's how it happened for me. It just took time and consistency and also being really fortunate and privileged enough to be able to afford my therapist and, and he was the first therapist I ever went to, and he remains the only therapist I've ever seen outside of say couples therapy, couples counseling. So I was very fortunate to have someone who had a lot of empathy, a lot of grace to give to me when I didn't have a need to give to myself. He wasn't pushy. So early on, he would use language like, he would begin to use language like you were brainwashed when he saw that was not the way to go with me, because therapy sessions ended up being me defending Jehovah's Witnesses, because I think there's a lot of good in them, and they, and my mom is a Jehovah's Witness, and she's one of my favorite people. So we would end up in sessions with me just basically defending witnesses to him. And so he realized that wasn't the right approach for me. And so it wasn't until like recently, literally 5 years later, can I say that there was a high level of brainwashing in the way I was raised to basically deny who I was. And so, yeah, that's what helped me. Time, a phenomenal therapist, and consistency at doing the work. And so the second part of the question is, how can we support the Black Lives Movement matter as teens in racist households? Are there any links to learn more about Black history that isn't whitewashed? I will preface this answer by saying that I am not an activist. I'm not an anti-racist educator. So for me to provide you links, I literally would have to do what I'm suggesting that you do, which is Google, find in my education, right? Because again, I didn't grow up here, so I'm having to educate myself. And in that education, I'm realizing that a lot of this stuff has been said ad nauseum. So looking back at people who have been having these conversations forever, the Angela Davis and the works of MLK and the works of Malcolm X and all of that, they laid the foundation, and a lot of their teachings are still applicable. So, going back and looking at people who have devoted their whole lives to activism and anti-racism work is a great place to start at the very least. And also on Instagram, you have accounts that are dedicated to presenting historically factual perspective of racism in America throughout the years. Those are great accounts to look at and follow and learn from. I know Erica Hart. I think I'm going to include her handle in the description. I know she is an educator and she teaches anti-racist stuff to teens and young adults. So you may find their work beneficial. Just know that they're very forthright in their approach, and so bear that in mind. But if you're willing to endure a little discomfort, I think you could learn a lot from them. Another question I have is, how do you feel about birth control? I can't imagine my body with those hormones. I wonder how many health problems, mental problems it causes. where is male birth control? To that, I say I don't have any comment on anything anyone does with their body, ever. That is literally like the bottom line for me. I personally am not on birth control because I have no need for it. But if whoever is on birth control and that's their body, it's their choice, potential side effects and all. So yeah, I just mind my own body pretty much. What things taught in childhood did you have to unlearn in adulthood? Do you have another 10 hours? Because I don't even think that would be enough time to cover all the things I'm having to unlearn. And that is why I started my podcast and named it what I did, because a lot of the things that I'm unlearning and this journey towards getting back to myself may be considered aberrant. At one point in time, queerness was considered aberrant, and I welcome that. I welcome getting to know myself as I am without conditioning, regardless of what I may find. Because, the shadow self is not always a pleasant discovery, but it is one that I am committed to returning to. I'm committed to returning to myself. So in that journey, there's a lot of unlearning of a lot of things. For instance, I touched on it some. I'm learning that I am inherently flawed. I do not believe that anymore. I think that is a teaching of many religions, and it leads to a lot of self-loathing and a lot of belief that other people's ideologies are what's best for us. And that certainly happened to me. I believe that my culture, my family, my church, they knew better for me than I did for myself. So I'm learning that no one knows more about me than I do. It has been a great thing for me to do as I grow and return to myself. So that's a big one I've had to unlearn. One thing that I was taught in childhood is that children don't have thoughts of their own, and they're meant to be seen and not heard. That stole my voice. That simple concept has been one of the most harmful things in my life. So having to unlearn that I don't have a voice, or that my voice is not as important as the voice of my elders has been a big one for me. Yeah, you may have had, it happens in African cultures where there is a big reverence for the elderly, and it is appropriate. But I think its appropriateness is only to an extent that it doesn't squelch your own voice. So I can respect my elders and their lived experiences without having to defer to them on things that I know to be true for myself. So that has been a big unlearning for me. And the fact that I speak up or have a voice does not mean I'm disrespectful. I mean, someone can construe it as that, but that's certainly not my intention. And if me speaking my mind disrespects you, I think, that's something anyone has to personally, it's a personal thing they have to contend with, and it's not on me. The solution is not then for me to not speak up anymore. So that's another one. Maybe I'll do a full episode on, all the other things that I've had to unlearn over the years. Another question I got is, I would love to know about your coming out story if you'll be happy to share. my coming out story. It really happened in phases. I started therapy. Before I started therapy, only my girlfriend at the time knew that I was gay. So after therapy, after a year into therapy, or during that year, I would still, like Facebook. I don't know if they do that anymore, but Facebook, you could group your friends list by acquaintances or close friends and this and that and the other. So I did a lot of managing appearances. So I would post certain things only to close friends, and I'll post certain things only to acquaintances, and I'll post certain things only to family. So I came out in little chunks to different people. And it wasn't until I don't know what happened where I was just like, I can't keep doing this anymore. Well, I know what happened. I fell in love with, I had been in love and in a relationship with my girlfriend turned ex-wife at the time for a year. And I was still referring to her as my best friend. In fact, we had just started living together and traveling together as travel nurses. And I was still referring to her as my best friend. Oh, I'm going on a trip with my bestie. And that began to feel old really quickly. So one day I posted a thing and said, this is my girlfriend. And I posted it to everyone. It wasn't just to close friends. It was close friends, acquaintances, and family. And that was that. And the thing about the community that I had at that time, a lot of them were African. A lot of my previous friends are African. And a lot of them are Jehovah's Witnesses. So, and there is this culture of non-confrontation. So what people did was just unfollowed me. I think only maybe a couple of people came into my DMs or called me or texted me to say how abhorrent what I was doing was. But for the most part, they all left me alone. The fallout from coming out was I lost every single friend I had who was a Jehovah's Witness or was African. And those friends were my longest friends. Only my friend Nina, we've been friends since we were 10, since I was 10 and she was 12. We've been friends for a really long time. She's really the only one who remained in my life. And of course, my family, because, yeah, my family. But otherwise, I lost everybody who I was friends with. And I basically had to start over. And if you know anything about making friends in adulthood, it's for the birds. Ugh. So yeah, that was a really hard time as far as that goes. Because it was very obvious in that moment that my friendships were conditional friendships, and already I had a complex about not being able to make friends or not feeling likable. So, yeah, that didn't help. And I kind of retreated into myself a little bit. And even when people were trying to be friends to me or proving that they were my friends, I couldn't see it because I was just so caught up in no one likes me. And it took a while for me to begin to come out of that. And it's just now happening where I feel confident that the small group of people I call friends are solidly in my corner as I am in theirs. So yeah, that was a rough time for me. Favorite skincare products. Your skin is always glowing. Number one, oily skin. I have the oiliest skin known to man. So that's the glow. But beyond that, I love ingredients more than I love product. So like if you've ever look up the company, it's called The Ordinary. The Ordinary, they do skincare in a very unique way by, focusing on ingredients instead of just like marketing claims. So some of my favorite ingredients to use for different things is vitamin C. I use vitamin C serums. I use different brands of it, but high potency vitamin C serum. I use niacinamide or products with niacinamide in it for inflammation. I use hyaluronic acid for moisture and hydration. I either use it by itself or I mix it in with my face cream. So I focus on basically hydration, hyperpigmentation. So I use things with kojic acid in it for hyperpigmentation. And I focus on good sun protection. So that's what I do. So I just try different brands and with these different ingredients in them. And then, I get a lot of samples usually too. So I'm not like a diehard brand fanatic when it comes to skincare. I do have a lot of skincare, but it's all really like samples and stuff to see which vitamin C serum I like better than which, and that kind of stuff. So that's kind of my skincare routine. So it's generally I wash with an exfoliating like cleanser. I tone with something that has AHAs or BHAs or a combination of both. So I would tone with a toner like that. Then I would do a vitamin C serum, and I would do like maybe a lactic acid serum, depending on what my face is doing. And then I'll follow that up with a good moisturizing, hydrating, moisturizer. And then top it all off with some sunscreen. At night, I would do like overnight masks sometimes, usually heavy in moisture or vitamin C again. So yeah, that's pretty much what I do. This question says, I remember you said being African, community, and I would love to hear more about that. Yeah, I'm very, very solidly a collectivistic person. I am not so individualistic, and I don't think it's not just innate, it's also because of how I was raised. So community is supremely important to me, but community that is chosen even more so. I find that for me, when I build my own community versus like just have community based on proximity or religion, I am able to make sure that it's a community that serves me. That's, that I'm able to serve the community as they serve me. So that means like homophobes not allowed. I am pretty stringent on, I'm a Libra. So I have this thing about fairness and equitable treatment of all people. So that's kind of how I cultivate community. But it's been kind of difficult actually because I am a travel nurse. I move around so often that a lot of my community is virtual. And for the first time in my life, I am having a longing to settle down. I don't like that term, settle down, but like to plant some roots. Because right now I move pretty often, every 3 months, every 6 months, every 10 months, something like that. I move, and that's been my life for a very long time. And while I treasure my virtual community, I am beginning to crave, some form of physical connection with my community, where I would go to the same farmers market or have, things like that. I'm beginning for the first time to consider where I would like to live, somewhat permanently. I don't know. You see, I can't even say somewhere to live permanently, because what does that even mean? But I'm considering sitting my butt down for a little bit, I guess you could say. So that's what community means to me. And I'm really looking forward to really cultivating and developing that as the years go on. One thing that I did in 2019 that was profoundly impactful in my life was join a women's group known as Getting Free. And as the name suggests, Getting Free is a group of people who are committed to getting free from it all the bullshit, And in that community, I've been a member of it for, 2019 and now 2020. I found such amazing people who show up for you, who support, who love, so that has been transformational for me over the last couple of years. If you could have a superpower, what power would you have? I would choose the power to eradicate hunger. I don't think anybody should go to bed hungry. So if that's a potential superpower, that's what I want. Nobody should go to bed hungry ever. How do you deal with racism and whiteness? Honestly, I don't. Let me rephrase that. As in, I don't tolerate it ever. I am a very outspoken person. I'm a very, very passionate person. I will call you out, at work or elsewhere, because it just brings up something in me. I just hate unfair. I just hate when things are inequitable. And so I would most undoubtedly call out racism when I see it. And whiteness, honestly, I didn't grow up with white people, so I have really good friends who are white, but it is always explicitly people who are committed to anti-racism. And that's the people I would allow. Those are the white people I ever allow in my circle. People who are committed to dismantling white supremacy. And otherwise, I just really don't have anything in common with you. What brings you joy and awakens your soul? Oh, what brings me joy? The sun. Nothing in this world brings me as much joy as feeling the warmth of the sun on my skin. Now, if I could do it on the beach, even better. But that is one of the biggest things for me if I'm feeling down and out. And the first thing I think of is get outside, which is why it's so hard to find a place to live. And, that's not why, but that's part of the reason why, because a lot of places I love, there isn't enough sun. I lived in Chicago for 4 years, and I love that city if it could be summer all year round. So the sun brings me joy. Reading brings me joy. I love to read. I used to be a pretty voracious reader, not so much anymore because, life, but I love to read. I love a good meal. a well-seasoned, home-cooked meal brings me so much joy. That brings me so much joy. Being able to provide for my family brings me so much joy. Flowers and blush, everything brings me joy. I love blush clothing. So that brings me incredible joy. And sitting here looking at a fresh bouquet of flowers on my table, that brings me joy. Good love making brings me joy. Yeah, just the simple pleasures of life, like, feel really pleasurable to me and awakens me. So, yeah, not so much like things. I'm not a very thing-oriented person. I just love my free time to just lay in the sun, read a book, eat a wonderful meal. That will always be what I work for. You know, that's what I work for. And also being able to use the resources I have to bring that to other people. That brings me incredible joy. How do you let your inner child know it's okay to let go? Letting go of defensiveness and being more open. I will say that for me, vulnerability is where I thrive. So letting go is almost kind of like my default. That's where I go. It's a catch-22 sometimes, but I will almost always find something good in someone, even if they are causing me harm, if I care deeply about them. So that means that I'm able to let go of I'm able to forgive easily. I'm able to forgive people easily. In the last year, though, the work has been to understand the need to love myself first and foremost. And that has meant that I've had to cut out people who were repeat offenders, basically, or kept harming me repeatedly without any changed behavior. But once I see a glimmer of changed behavior, I'm pretty receptive to having them back in my life. So that's really not been a struggle that I've had to deal with so much, being defensive and being more open. It's just, I think it's kind of where I live naturally. So another question was, where is your faith spirituality now after being raised Jehovah's Witness, or did it completely turn you away from that? I am more spiritual now than I ever have been. I am more spiritual now than I ever was when I was religious. I think I didn't understand the distinction between being religious and being spiritual. I always thought the two were interconnected, that you couldn't be spiritual until you were religious. And that has proven to be the complete opposite for me. It's almost like when I was religious, I wasn't spiritual, because a lot of religiosity, as I experienced it, was around sets of rules and ideologies that inherently denied my experience, my lived experience. So I find that religion typically has this premise of being intrinsically flawed and having to work to, become more, in the case of Christians, become more Christ-like. And to be more Christ-like is to deny a lot of who I am. it has its merit. Jesus Christ, the story, the person, the legend had many, many wonderful message and teachings, but the way religion as a man-run thing operates leaves me with questioning my voice, my sexuality, my inherent worthiness. And so I don't ascribe to religion at all anymore. I love teachings. I love Buddhist teachings, but from a very spiritual point of view and not like from a religious point of view. So that's kind of where I am. I'm exploring different modalities of spirituality, and meditation is incredibly spiritual to me. And I find stillness, because stillness otherwise is difficult for me to cultivate. But when I'm meditating, or when I take meditation into my daily life, I'm able to find equanimity and a calmness of mind and spirit. And so that is spiritual to me. When I use tarot cards to help lean into my intuitive abilities, that feels spiritual to me. So I really appreciate things that has me embracing my innate goodness, that has me seeing myself from the light of being innately good, and being able to trust my inner knowing and my voice and my instinct. So I'm more spiritual now than I've ever been, and religion just stifles me, or has stifled me, and so religion is not a thing I do anymore at all. There was a question that came into my DMs that I can't find right now, but I will save it in case I do another, if I find it, in case I do another Q&A to address it at that time. So that's all for today. This went on longer than I thought, and I loved doing it, and I can't wait to do another one sometime. I do want to record a podcast episode about just certain things that I've been having discussions recently of. So that should come up in the next week. And otherwise, have a great holiday weekend. And I'm off for 8 days, so I am just going to live my best life. And it's sunny here in LA the next few days, so you already know I'm going to be out there on that beach, soaking it all up. Until next time, I will talk to you later.